He accepted a new job without telling me, then stood in the kitchen smiling like he'd just done us a favor, and when I didn't match his excitement, he said I was reacting out of fear. This is how it shows up now. He comes home with decisions already sealed. The tone is casual, like he's reading off plans that were always obvious. A new role with longer hours. A bigger car because it made sense financially. A shift in our savings because he ran the numbers. I hear about these things after the paperwork is signed, after the deposits are paid, after the congratulatory messages have already come in from people who knew before I did. In public, he talks about how aligned we are, how we're building something together. In private, I'm handed updates. There's a pattern to the timing. He waits until the decision can't be undone, then presents it like a finished product. If I ask why we didn't talk first, he says there wasn't time. If I push, he says hesitation kills momentum. If I'm quiet, the night goes smoothly. I catch myself watching for the signs now. The way he takes calls in the other room. The way he closes his laptop a little too fast when I walk by. The calendar entries that appear after the fact. I notice when he uses we in conversations with other people and I when it's just us. There's a difference between how he frames things depending on the audience. With friends, he says we're making bold moves. With me, he says he's carrying the weight so I don't have to. I tell myself I might be overreacting. I remind myself that he's always been driven. That decisiveness is part of what made him successful. I minimize it by calling it a personality difference. I say things like, he's just more comfortable making calls quickly. Or, I'm the one who likes to think things through. Sometimes I wonder if I'm slowing us down. Sometimes I ask myself if this is what partnership looks like when one person is better at navigating the world. I even catch myself defending him before he says anything, preemptively explaining my own discomfort away. We met in a normal way. A mutual friend's birthday at a crowded bar. He talked about work like it was a puzzle he enjoyed solving. I liked that he seemed sure of himself without trying too hard. We exchanged numbers, went for coffee, compared schedules. There was nothing dramatic about it. Felt easy to agree on where to meet and when. That felt like a good sign at the time. In the beginning, things felt stable because they were predictable. He had routines. He planned ahead. Bills were paid early. He liked lists. When we moved in together, he handled the logistics confidently, and it lowered my anxiety. I didn't have to chase anything. He said what he would do and then did it. That steadiness felt mature. It felt like being with someone who knew how to take care of life. The first shift was small. He postponed a conversation about a possible job change. He said he didn't want to stress me out until it was real. When I asked what that meant, he brushed it off and said he was just exploring options. A few weeks later, he mentioned in passing that he'd gone through multiple interviews. I remember laughing it off, saying I wished I'd known sooner. He kissed my forehead and said, "See? You're fine. This is why I wait." I let it go because nothing had technically changed yet. Then it happened again. He made a large purchase for the house without asking. When I questioned it, he said the deal wouldn't have waited. The conversation was postponed because it was late, then brushed aside because the money was already spent. I adapted. I stopped asking hypothetical questions. I waited for announcements. I learned that if I reacted calmly, he'd be warmer. If I raised concerns, he'd go quiet or accuse me of doubting him. Publicly, he'd praise me for being supportive. Privately, my role was to catch up emotionally to decisions already made. I started explaining it to other people in ways that made it sound smaller. He's just decisive. He's under a lot of pressure. I trust him. I explained it to myself by pointing out the benefits. Our lifestyle improved. Our savings grew. I told myself that compromise sometimes looks like letting the other person lead. I know this sounds small, but it felt easier to adapt than to argue. I know this sounds like teamwork, but I wasn't actually included. I stay because there are years invested here. Because our finances are intertwined in ways that would take months, maybe longer, to separate. Because our life has a structure that works on the surface. There's fear in disrupting something that appears stable. There's also the quiet pressure of having already said yes so many times that saying no now feels like rewriting our entire history. Leaving is harder than it looks because it wouldn't just be emotional. It would mean figuring out where to live if his job relocates us without my input. It would mean untangling accounts, explaining to family why things fell apart when everything looked successful from the outside. It would mean losing the predictability that, despite everything, still keeps the lights on and the calendar full. There's a real risk in stepping away from that kind of stability, even when it doesn't feel mutual. There wasn't a big turning point. No fight. No discovery. It was quieter than that. It was the moment he announced another major decision over dinner, already framed as done, and I realized I didn't feel surprised anymore. I felt prepared. I had already adjusted my expectations downward. I noticed how quickly I moved from hearing the news to calculating how to live with it. That lingered. Right now I'm still here. I haven't decided anything. I'm more aware, but I'm not free from it. I notice the imbalance clearly, but I still participate. I nod. I adapt. I weigh the cost of speaking against the ease of silence. I'm aware that partnership is being defined without my consent, and I'm also aware that I'm allowing it by staying. Can partnership exist if shared decision-making only goes one way?